Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey, and with me today I have.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Suard, co-founder and CEO of ExoDigo, a California, Israeli-based startup.
Okay, and let's talk about that for a second. What exactly does ExoDigo do? I know from what I've read here, it's AI-based non-invasive excavation, but that is better explained by you than by me.
Yeah, thank you so much for the mic. Yeah, so what we do is we deliver underground maps of underground utilities, also soil layers, like if it's clay, rock, sand, anything that an engineering firm would need at the design for a big construction project. And we do that in non-intrusive methods involving AI and also some drones or other platforms.
Okay, let's go into a little more detail on that. I mean, AI is a buzzword, but I'm sure you're using it for more than that. How exactly does the AI portion of this work?
Yes, so when you gather so much data, we use a multi-sensing approach, which means we measure signals from a lot of different sensors that can sense underground. And when you have such big amounts of data, it's very hard for a human to interpret that correctly. So we use AIs to do interpretation at scale of all the sensors data and combine it together to a single map. And that's what helps us detect a lot of more underground utilities and anomalies than current techniques.
And I'd imagine that a lot of this is based on safety because, we have dial before you dig and that sort of thing, because when people dig, sometimes they hit utility lines, they don't know what they're doing, or they just got the wrong info, or the blueprints are wrong. And this kind of works around that or solves for that problem, I suppose.
Exactly. So you solve a few problems. You have safety, like you're saying, which is the construction phase when you have boots on the ground, and then we help them not hit pipes and discover them up front. But it goes way earlier in projects also to the design phase, and then it has a lot of influence on the cost and the timeline of a project. And there, in those cases, we aim at reducing the number of unknowns and unexpected issues that are going to happen and make a project become way longer and cost a lot more.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of projects that you've worked on, first I'd like to start with Israel. I would assume that another problem you have besides utilities and everything else is it's a very old country with a lot of very old heritage stuff that you want to avoid digging in. Like there's thousand and thousand-year-old artifacts in there. So does this detect for that as well?
Yeah, we build a solution for utilities and underground artifacts. Also, archaeology is our next product. But yeah, it's pretty tough. So it's pretty hard on the AI to train. But then when we come to countries that are more modern, like the US, on their infrastructure, then it gives us even a stronger solution. But our solution is built for all places like Israel and UK, and for new places like US.
Yeah, UK would be another example of stuff that's just been around and underground for thousands of years. And so you have specific projects you've worked on in the States. Maybe we could go into a couple of those.
So we have an interesting project we did with a client in California, which is an EPC, an engineering and procurement construction company called Charge. So they're a veterans-only company in the US, and they do a lot of work that involves utility or urban development. And what they wanted to check is that they had to do to bury new utilities in urban environments. And they decided to bring us and the current technique. So we had a private locator basically compete with us. And what we found is twice much more lines. A few of these lines were also on the path on which they had to bury the utilities. So we avoided 5 hits. The client pothole. So we have the entire map, and you can clearly see what was missed by the premium locators, what ExoDigo discovered. And we brought a lot of value to that clients, reducing potholes, which is our carbon footprint approach, and reducing risk and making his project cost less. So that was a pretty good experience for us to start operating in the US. And he became a partner since then and a real champion of ExoDigo.
Just in terms of, I know Los Angeles is a little more spread out. So in terms of someplace densely packed, like let's say Manhattan or something, is it any more difficult to do this, or does that make a difference in terms of scanning the ground and using sensors in a very packed environment that's very busy?
So of course it makes a difference, but we've trained our AI and our solution to work in extremely congested areas. So we have a project, for example, in Tel Aviv, where we work for the metro. that's super congested. And even in LA, so LA is, like you said, it's pretty spread out, but we just did a demo in downtown LA on MLK Boulevard. So it's a 9-lane, huge road in the middle of the city, packed with utilities. And we're just now finalizing the results with LA Metro, and we're going to share that online soon. But it seems it's going to be a pretty good map, and we'll prove that even in very stacked and congested areas, our solution is the way to go and way superior to any other techniques.
Okay, and you mentioned drones. Like when I think sensors, I think of stuff stuck on the ground, especially if you're looking at the ground. But how do the drones figure into all this?
So we have two platforms. We have basically it's like a push cart that you put a lot of sensors on, and you move around. You mow the grass technique. That's for the inside of the cities, and we can do exactly the same with exactly the same sensors on drones for rural areas. So if you have a huge area outside, we would fly exactly the same sensors, but we'd fly them with a drone instead of moving them with a cart.
Okay, and where do you see the future of this going? I mean, other than what you're doing now, which is kind of the future to begin with, but beyond that, what are more capabilities you see coming online in the future for this sort of these techniques?
So it's on two different fronts. On the what is the solution going to be able to discover? We're training the AI now on ground layers, mining, oil and gas onshore, because it's sensors that come from these areas. So we'll be able to discover anything underground. And on the second front, which is my favorite, is that today we operate as a full service, but we're building the hardware to be able to be operated by anyone. And then we'll enable even private clients to scan their home, check that the soil is not contaminated, that there are no utilities, developers, and really make underground mapping democratized, like to have anyone map underground.
So the dial before you dig thing becomes download this app and go into your backyard and make sure that you're not going to hit any utility lines before you start digging.
So no, it's actually in partnership with the dial before dig, where we did also a demo with them at 811. So 811 is not available on private areas. So our solution would be perfect for private areas where we have no records and no 811. But also we would recommend the client to use it at the design phase and still call 811 at the construction phase until we make it a solution that's combined with them. But we're going to partner with the call before you dig.
This sounds like it would be ideal for something like remediation. Like I know we've done stories about mines, let's say in the north of Canada, where the blueprints are just flat out wrong, and so people have to go through all this surveying ahead of time. So this sounds like the kind of solution that would really lend itself to that.
Exactly. We want to give better intel at the design phase to anyone who wants to have blueprints or maps that actually mean something and be able to plan on them and not have unexpected issues that can double the project's price or endanger people's lives when they come to.
Okay, and if people are looking to use the product or just to learn more about it and about AI and non-invasive excavation, where should they go? What would you recommend in terms of your website?
So we have a website that we're going to update soon and a LinkedIn. So you can check ExoDigo or ExoDigo on the Google or on LinkedIn. And we also share a lot of projects that we do with different clients and share the value that we brought. And we have videos explaining more about the product. So that's where I recommend people to go.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.